So hey everybody, welcome to today's special stream. I have a special guest pair. Amitai, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I am not muted, so you can hear me. Hi, my name is Amitai. I am a software developer and consultant and coach. And I like pair programming and test driving and Java and trying things that are new to me. I've twitched once or twice before myself, but I don't totally understand that part. So I was eager to hitch a ride on Ted's train and see what I can learn about it. And just to try something new and pair program with someone I've just met online 10 minutes ago.
All right. Well, thanks for being part of this experiment.
Thanks for having me.
So also, you may notice that I have a T-shirt that is that I had made up for specifically for my stream, Kid Money Manager Season 2. So it made into a shirt. It actually came out pretty well. It just has that newly printed T-shirt smell.
You can do just like a one-off with one design time?
Yeah, I actually had two shirts printed. There's basically I now have an artist shop on Threadless. So I'll post the link at some point for that. If you want to buy a shirt, sure, or you can set up your own shop with your own stuff.
Nice.
All right, so let's for Amitai's benefit as well as anybody who's new to the stream. Oh my God, Gipa, hey, how you doing?
Sweet.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Mike just told me that's he's up there too, Mike Orsini. So the idea of this application, this Kid Money Manager application, was mainly sort of combination of two things. One was I'm a Java coach, but mostly do a lot of Java training, and finding good examples and sort of real world examples has always been, if you've ever done training, it's always been difficult. And so what I wanted to do was figure out some application, and coincidentally, I'd been keeping track of my son's money. Sort of, he's too young to, he's 14. I mean, technically he could have a bank account, but he wouldn't be able to have a debit card or anything, so it'd be hard for him to actually spend that money. And so we were keeping track of the money he earned, either from gifts or from bottle recycling, things like that. And he would, we would sort of deposit the money in his account, which was basically an Excel spreadsheet. But that was kind of annoying because every time he wanted to buy some cards, I'd have to remember if he had enough money. And then I'd have to scribble it on a piece of paper or take the receipt and write down that I spent this money, and then go back and plug that into the spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet looked something like, let's open up that. So this is the CSV file that was exported from the spreadsheet. Basically, these are all the transactions up until actually sometime last year. And so I'd have to go in and put each one in. And I also wanted to give him, sort of entice him to save it a little bit. And so I wanted to give him some interest. And so I would calculate manually, well, semi-manually in the Excel spreadsheet to do that. Anyway, it was really annoying to keep track of this stuff in a spreadsheet that was not accessible to me when I'm out, either him earning the money or spending the money. So I decided to create basically an app, a cloud-based app that would be accessible almost mainly by text messaging. It has a web UI, and that's fine if I'm at my computer and eventually want to have sort of a phone-based app. But the text messaging is actually turns out to be from a UI standpoint, the most straightforward way to interact with it. And so I'm using Twilio. Twilio has been really good to do the text messaging. They've also given some credits so that I can play around with it. Even though that's less than a penny a text message, it adds up. And so basically the architecture that I've been, so sort of on the training education side, the sort of, at least now somewhat more known ports and adapters, or I refer to as the hexagonal architecture, because I kind of prefer the original name, is what I'm basing this application on. And I've been teaching it for a while. And when I've been teaching it, I've also been learning how to and clarifying based on students' questions, like where things go. And so that's been really helpful. And actually implementing it's been really, really fun to do it this way. Figuring out where stuff goes is no longer something I have to give much thought about. And my talk about actually this topic got accepted to Agile 2019. So I've got
Nice.
3-4 months to work on to rework this presentation, but I'll be using the Kid Money Manager as sort of the prototypical example. And so there's also times where in the application, so let's take a look at the applications. This is what it looks like when sort of it starts out and it's empty. But I actually have it up and running on kidmoneymanager.com. Let me just switch to this for a second. Okay. Oh, actually, I don't want to go on my incognito window. That'll be a pain to log in. So let me go to here. And so I use Google Sign-In using the Spring OAuth support. And that was actually surprisingly difficult to do because the documentation was in some cases misleading. And in other cases, it just plain didn't have enough information. So I have a pending blog essay to post about that. So I'm going to click here to log in, but I'm actually going to go to secret mode because it shows my emails. Amitai, you're okay to know my emails. So let me go secret here. And then now I go through the OAuth. And I'll switch back. And so this is the current in production active list of transactions that basically consists of my son's account. There are probably some transactions I have to catch up on that are still on bits of scrap paper here and there. But this is basically it. And so so you can see last weekend he spent some money on a cookie because I said, well, I'll buy you this other food, but if you want a cookie, you got to use your own money.
I might need this app for myself.
Well, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Mike also said, hey, I could use that. And there's some features. So that's the sort of the so this is like I'm using this now. And this is kind of awesome that I can use this now and I can text message. And I can show you what the text message looks like. Where is it? Here it is. And so basically, might be a little hard to read, but you can see like in the upper right there, it's spend 2.5, and then it says here's the current balance. And here's the thing I implemented yesterday, which was sort of a welcome message saying, hey, welcome, here's the commands you can use. So that's all working. And it was kind of neat because I just deployed it and it worked because I've got pretty decent test coverage. Because It was all mostly TDD. Mm-hmm. So from the web UI, yeah, go ahead, please.
The typical use case is you're out, he bought a cookie or you bought a cookie for him, thinking you need to account for it.
Right.
What does the text message look like that you send?
So, well, let's take a look at the tests because that will tell us.
Hey, how about that?
So let's go to our SMS. Let's see. Let's go to that's deposit command, spend command test. That's the lower level one. Let's look at the command parser test. So basically to deposit, it would be deposit in the amount. To spend, it would be similar. If you want to check the balance, you just say balance. And there's also, you can say where the money came from. So I can say deposit 25 and everything else will be considered sort of the description for that transaction, like bottle recycling.
So it's kind of like there's at least 2 arguments and maybe optionally more, something like that.
Right. And so we can look at, and so most of that is handled by the command parser. So the command parser basically, well, we can sort of follow, if we think about this diagram here, right? So actually a text message comes in to one of the ports. So, and then basically it hits the SMS controller. And so the SMS controller, this post is what Twilio invokes when when it receives a text message. So there's a specific phone number assigned to this application, and when the text message comes in, Twilio will do a post to this path, and I give it that path when I configure the application, and basically comes in as just, as if somebody submitted a form. And the two pieces of information that I'm interested in is what was the phone number that sent it, and what is the content of the message. One thing I do is I check to see, do I know this phone number? Are they authorized to even interact with this application? And then I execute the command. And so the command parses it, and so it turns that basically string of stuff into some type of transaction command. And there are basically technically four kinds of commands. There is the simple one, which is the balance command, and all it does is basically say what the balance is. There is the generic transaction command, which yesterday or the day before I refactored because there was some commonality. Because one of the things I want to make sure is that my son can't do a deposit. So the only thing that my son's account is able to do, because he has the role of kid, is he's allowed to only check the balance. So you can see what his balance is, but he can't do a deposit. And so this command then checks to see if the parent is executing this. If not, then it basically kicks him out. Otherwise, it executes the command, and that's either the deposit or spend. And it then on account, right now in the system, there is only a single account. And so when I do make it multi-tenant, we'll have to create multi-account kind of thing. But that's going to be fun when I get to it. Because that's going to be some fairly, actually, I don't know how it'll be. It might actually be fairly straightforward. But right now, all my assumptions, because I haven't needed anything more, is around there's basically one account. And then there are basically user profiles. So me, his mom, and my son's account are basically those profiles. Cool.
So yeah. I pulled you away from what you were showing me in the web interface.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there was much else other than this is all based on the OAuth security. So again, it uses the user profiles to figure out, do you have permission to do any of these things, any of the deposit money, spend money, or import. This import is basically, I extracted it from the Excel spreadsheet and can import a whole bunch of transactions. Nice. When my son logs in, then he just doesn't see these buttons, but he still sees everything else. And one of the interesting things is that the interest credit doesn't get calculated every month. It gets calculated sort of on the fly. So when April 1st comes around next week, it won't be calculated on April 1st. It'll be calculated when I request the balance for the first time after April 1st. And so it basically goes back in time and says, what months have I missed calculating interest credit for? And we'll basically catch up those interest credit transactions.
And the rationale for that is that if you were to calculate it as the dates changed, you need some kind of a long-running service.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I need to have something that, and I could do that, but the idea initially was, what would it be if I didn't want this thing to be running all the time and only to be sort of woken up as it's needed? Because when nobody's interacting with it, it's not really needing to do very much. It had the added benefit of when I imported my transactions, I had to do catch up anyway, because the last transaction, that I did the manual calculation for was back in May. And so, kind of had a nice benefit for that as well.
Makes sense.
And since I'm on the topic of the balance, let's take a quick look at account. So account does not hold the balance. It basically just holds an immutable set of transactions. And so every time you request the balance, it basically runs through them all. Basically, that's right. here. Basically just runs through them all as a stream, gets the signed amount of each transaction and sums it up, and that's the balance. And that's really nice because then I can have compensating transactions. If I really wanted to really correct something, I could go in and modify an individual transaction. What else?
And so when a new transaction is made, that's a new set with the contents of the previous plus one more?
Right. So there is the basically that. Yep. So we save it to the database and then we add it to the internal. So this is somewhat event sourcing like, although I think it's just old transaction kind of thing that predates event sourcing. But yeah, so basically I save it in the database and then I rebuild the immutable set with taking the existing transactions and adding the new one.
There's a piece of syntax on line 82 that has a sort of a cyan.
Oh yeah,
that's
IntelliJ basically hiding something that's redundant.
Okay.
So that's what it looks like. IntelliJ will sometimes hide things to try and be helpful, to reduce the verbosity, since this is sort of inferred from everything.
Gotcha.
Yeah, everybody always asks about that.
What's that?
It's like, that's not Java syntax.
I know I'm not up to date on the latest Java, so maybe that's something. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So what were you, is that enough explaining that we could start? Do you think I know enough?
I think so. You'll have to tell me.
So. I mean, well, I'm going to ask more questions.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
No doubt about that.
So let's see. So where, let's go to the Trello board. So this is my task board. I will not call it a Kanban, but I try to keep my work in progress low. So let's go over here. So there are a couple of choices for what we can work on. There is the UI for the user profile management. So right now, let me go over to here. So right now, and actually these are redacted because I knew I'd be broadcasting, so I didn't want those to be the real thing. Yep. Right now, this is the very dumb. Mainly, I made this screen yesterday because I wanted that send welcome thing to basically, when I add a new user, to be able to send them a welcome text message. That way, they don't have to know what the phone number is. They can just now reply to this, the sender. But there's no way for me to add profiles. So right now, I am the only one in there. And his mom, my son and his mom keep asking me, like, when are we going to be able to use it? So I can go and insert stuff manually into the database. So it's not like it's a blocker, but so that's one possibility. You can do that.
So what you're saying is you have users who have seen the value of this application and want to participate more fully in it.
Yeah. Basically, having a UI to add it would just be sort of a nice to have. And obviously, if anybody else ends up using this, then clearly that'll be a necessity. But right now, I can go through the back door and insert records directly into the Postgres database that's running on Heroku. So this is all running on Heroku with a Postgres database. So I can go and manually insert records into the user profile, which I had to do sort of in order to bootstrap my way, be able to log in. So can create a little bit more formal UI for that. Another option is there's a feature of wanting to categorize things. So, was this money coming in from sort of as a gift or earning, or looking at the spending? Is this spent on games or other things? But then there's another feature that's sort of related, which are goals. Like, how far am I in reaching the goal to buy this thing? So those are kind of the main, the larger features that we can start on. There's also some smaller things that we can look at. But pretty much anything under features or even under tasks is up for grabs.
I have a vague sense that if there were goals and and progress could be seen toward goals that would be educational for your son in a way that you would like him to have.
Yep.
But maybe categorizing sources of income also could be.
Yeah, I feel like now that I talk about it, it doesn't feel as compelling as the goals does. So should we go for goals?
Before we do, I think so. Before we do,
yeah.
So it's true that your son can log in.
Right now he can't.
Okay.
But I can go and manually insert records into the database so that he can log in. Which I will be doing because he's coming back from a trip this weekend, so I'll be doing that before he gets back.
Okay, so if we took the first one and we got all the way through it in an hour, then you wouldn't have to manually insert him tomorrow.
True.
But we might not get all the way through that in an hour. What do you think?
I don't know. I think we could.
So maybe...
Do you want to do that one? I mean, it's a bit more straightforward. Yeah. Like, at least in terms of what it's supposed to do is much more clear.
I think goals is a little big, but it's also pretty important.
Yeah.
But we can go for urgent instead of important because...
All right, let's go for that.
Thing done, and then we save you some database work tomorrow.
and the mistakes therein.
Yeah.
All right. So
cool.
What this then means, so this story is basically... already have the view, and so it's pretty much we want an add button that let's go to this thing. So we want an add button that basically takes a name, an email, a phone, and then a role, and adds it to the database. And that's pretty much it. So
any kind of validation that we care about?
So let's see. So basically the user profile. So let's just take a quick look at the user profile. That's weird. There we go. So the role will certainly need to be validated. The phone number, I don't have anything other than, actually I don't think I have any validation for that. That's something that I should add. So there is a regex that I could use for validation, but I have not implemented that. So that's something that we could look at. But other than that, it's basically the name doesn't need any validation. The email, maybe minimal validation. I'm less concerned about validation than just sort of data entry since it's me.
So I should share a very, very short anecdote about my TDD style, which is why I asked this question about validation. I remember the first time that I was pairing with Llewellyn Falco. I think it was the first time. My inclination is that I think of all the things that should prevent us from succeeding and make sure that we throw the exception or reject it or whatever it is that we're going to do. And then only when we have reached, like we've got our way all the way through the forest and we didn't do any of the things that should disallow this, then it is allowed.
Okay.
And I realized this is an unusual style of TDD, and it's because of where I learned it.
Oh, okay.
At a bank in IT security in a domain I did not understand.
Right. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah.
And so I don't have to work that way. It's just that's something that's kind of baked into me. And so that was my first question, but we can also just not worry about that yet.
I would say because my requirements are less stringent. So I'm coming at it from an MVP point of view. What's the minimal thing I can get this to work, given that the audience of users is me?
Right.
So I have that advantage. But I do want to, though, because I do sometimes forget to deal with validation.
So what puts me at ease is like, what's at risk here if we do this later? That you forget to, and then you go multi-tenant, and then you're in trouble. So if you're sure you won't forget, if you write it down here, then I'm at ease.
Right here. So let's see, validation for user profile, phone number, email. I should actually refactor out. Right now, email's a string, and I'm always on a. This should be a value object thing. The name should be a value object, so those should be. And this should be value objects.
Yep.
So, all right.
Cool. I'm satisfied that this will not bite you in the butt later by mistake. So
yeah, I mean, the worst thing that happens, like, so we can think about, hey, you just missed, just sort of a background overview of stuff. But if we start doing something that you want, folks in the chat, folks who are reviewing, don't hesitate to type stuff and ask questions, because I know for me that makes it more interesting and more fun. So, so this one will clearly need to be validated. Technically there are 3 roles. There's an unknown role that I use for basically. What I've done is I've allowed people like you could go ahead to Kid Money Manager, authenticate with Google Sign-In, and you would have the same basically privileges as my son, which is you could look at the balance and look at the transactions. Email, if that gets wrong, then you won't be authenticated. That's the only place it's used. We don't send out emails yet. So that's used to match you up. When you do a Google sign-in and it authenticates you, we get your email and we use that to look up your user profile. So if that's wrong, you just will be not authenticated as much as possible. Phone number, if that's wrong, we will be accidentally text messaging somebody else.
Right. That's the main one I was worried about.
That's probably the main one. And we could go ahead and do that validation first. It's already a value object.
Sure.
So let's do that. So let's go. So I'm going to be a little bit more of the sort of strong driver. You can tell me what you want to do, or you can ask me questions, and then I'll do it. How does that work for you?
Sure. Yeah.
Because usually, I could hand off the keyboard, but I don't know what. I've never remote paired like this before, so I don't know what.
Would you be willing to try Strong Navigator and assume that I know a little IntelliJ, but not your app that well?
Yep.
That could be fun. Okay, so I'll request control. All my teammates are watching.
Oh no.
Marcus, Nayan, and Jeepa. Nice.
Welcome, folks.
Okay, so maybe some validation for the phone number.
Yep.
Talk me through it.
So what we want to do is, I guess we can create a phone number test. So we can do a Command-Shift-T. So that's an authorization test, but we want to create just a phone number validation test.
Oops.
So weird to see somebody type on my screen.
Yeah.
Everything else is just the defaults. So.
Okay.
And
I was wondering about destination directory.
Yep, and that's where it'll go.
Yep.
And if you want, you can hit type test and hit tab. And that opens up my personal template, which is not that much different from the standard one. So what do you want to do? You want to do an invalid phone number first? So the way we're going to validate, there is a standard, and I learned this when I was at
I saw you marked it as like E164.
Yeah, E164 is a standard way of formatting numbers.
Nayan had a quick question. What version? Community.
This is 28. So 2018.3 changed some stuff. I haven't. 2019 is almost out, so I'll switch to that. But yeah, I'm in the community because I'd like to demo in front of. I like people to know what they're going to get when they get the free version of IntelliJ. There's some nice stuff in the Ultimate, but.
And we got a Mike. I don't know Mike. Maybe you do. Hi, Mike. I know you now. Okay, so first some kind of invalid number, maybe just like obviously too short.
Yeah, too short sounds good.
Okay. Do you have a naming convention?
So I do sort of the so what do we want? We want it too short number should throw. We want to throw an exception. I guess we want to throw an exception. I don't think
just like that.
Yeah, should throw.
and we'll figure out which exception when we get there.
Yeah.
What do I need to make an
So
assertion? Or do you like to write your assertions first?
In this case, since we're gonna be expecting an exception. Do you know assert J? What?
How does that one go? It's assert throws.
Yeah, assert that thrown by.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one. And then basically the lambda, so just an open close paren arrow, and then we can have our, and then open curly, close curly.
I don't get the close curly for free?
Because it's not quite sure what you're doing, I guess. Usually
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And so here's where we want to just instantiate the phone number, and the constructor will do the validation, I guess. That one, yes. It is unfortunately confusing because Twilio has their own phone number object, but
as they should.
But they're in a different bounded context than I am.
Yes.
Oh,
string?
Convert to Kotlin. Yeah, thanks. Maybe some.
That's what I'm writing every day, so that would help me. Yeah. String?
Yeah, so let's pass in something that's too short.
Is it like so?
That looks good.
Semicolons. How I missed that.
Yeah, either take out the curly braces or put in a semicolon, either way.
Take out. Oh, I see. That one also needs one.
Yep.
Yeah, I've forgotten all the semicolon rules. Cool.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. Okay.
So let's run this test.
Is there a keystroke to run the?
Like my fingers know and I don't. Control Shift R.
Yes, that's right. I do know that one. All right. Did that go? I don't know if that ran.
No, it didn't. So
yeah, I'll just clicky to make sure it does. I have this problem when I'm remote pairing with my pair too. Sometimes Control Shift R doesn't get through Zoom.
Oh, that's weird. Okay,
many keystrokes do, but sometimes that one doesn't. Okay, so we didn't throw, as we expect.
Right.
So
hold on, sorry. I just want to move your window a little.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right.
So add one.
Yep.
Do we want to specify a kind of exception?
So let's see. So what exception do I want?
I guess we could throw one first and then tighten it.
Yeah, I mean we could
get the green first.
Yeah, right? We could throw an illegal argument exception for now.
Yeah. All right.
So actually, we should assert that at least it threw. No, we can add that later. Yeah, I was going to say we can assert that thrown by is an instance of a specific exception.
Mm-hmm. Whoopsie. So you have an amazing plugin here that I've noticed, and I just noticed it again, I think.
Oh, the command. Yeah, this is an awesome plugin.
What is this?
This is. Oh, what the heck is the name of it?
By Media Atelier. Should I just go here?
Sure. I think it just clicked on something else.
I lost it. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that. That's cool. Yeah, but basically it's a plugin that's for the Mac as a whole. Not as useful necessarily for IntelliJ, but useful for other apps. Mm-hmm. All right, so that regex might be sufficient. I have to admit, I rarely use regex.
Let me try and understand this. I did a lot of Perl, so
I understand it, and so let's see. So,
yeah, okay.
So it has to start with a plus, so it's escaping the plus, and that's the country code.
0 or 1 pluses because of the question mark.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, but plus is not a regex character. It's a plus character because of the backslash.
Right.
Okay.
I thought the plus was required for E.164. All right, well, that's the regex I got from Twilio, so I'm going to trust their...
Yeah, it'll be better than what you had. And
it'll be better than what I have.
Yeah.
And then digits. I don't know what the backslash D does.
I think that means a character from the digit class.
Oh, right, because it can't start with a 0. That's why.
No, so I don't know what that does either.
It has to start with 1 to 9, and then I guess it's 1 to 14 digits after that. Oh, so this is going to be interesting because this is an E164. Oh, hey, Smack in the Box. Yeah, we're pairing on right now. We're validating phone numbers. So the system uses phone numbers to both get text messages and send text messages. So we're right now. I have no validation for my phone number, so we're going to validate the phone number. I wonder if we should be tighter than this because this is the one E164 standard, but that doesn't mean that it's a valid US number.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Can we, before we go too far, can we do some kind of like our own little Boolean check for something real quick and make sure that we can throw this exception?
Sure. Yeah. Let's
and
absolutely let's stop parsing this regex and.
So would you like to do it here?
That makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess what we'll want to do is. So I think we can just say, is it the correct length for a US number? And the E164 US number is basically 1 and then 10 digits.
I'm feeling dumber. I'm feeling like if the length is 3, we should throw the exception.
Oh, okay.
Just to get a green, and then we can refine it as much as we want or not.
All right.
You buy that?
I'm there with you.
Okay. So if, see how my Java is doing, raw phone number dot length.
Yep.
And that will be an int, so I can use a double equals.
Yep.
3, exactly equal to 3.
All right.
I guess that's my claim. Then we're throwing. Is it throw new?
Yeah, throw new.
Yeah, right. Illegal argument exception?
Sure.
Or,
yep, that one's good.
That's what you're saying?
Yep.
Heck no, buddy. Whoops. This is perfect professional quality code.
All right.
And then we can bounce back to the validation test. And this time, can I get it to run? I'm skipping the keystroke because I'm just sure it won't work for some reason. That should at least be green, if I remember how this stuff works.
Yep, and it is. Woohoo! We got a green test.
Sweet, great validation we got going here.
Yeah. Do we want to do a stronger assertion that we get the illegal argument exception?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can tack that right before the closing print on that one. Sorry, right at the end of the line after that. Right here. And do dot. And then is instance of. And then you can say illegal argument. That one. And then dot class.
And that ought to be equally true.
Yeah.
Groovy.
All right.
Okay. So back to here. I'm not doing a very good job receiving your instructions, but I have an idea. Do you want to switch? Do you want to type and I'll give you an idea?
Yeah, because I'm really curious about your approach to the TDD here.
Sure. Okay. So then I'm hands off, and I'll strong style navigate exactly as Mike Porcini said. That's what we're trying.
Right.
Before I go further, I think I would extract. At least for now, at least the inside of the if block.
Okay.
I was debating whether the whole block, but let's just take the inside of the if block, the raw phone number being 3, and extract that to a method.
All right.
And call it is valid number. And then we'll have to invert the Boolean.
So wait, do you
or is valid?
Are you saying the throw or the stuff inside the if statement?
The stuff inside the if statement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got the wrong thing. So let's.
Yeah.
So.
We'll say is valid, I guess. Is good enough. It's on phone number, so we don't have to say number.
Yeah.
And then not.
Right.
And then that should be as green.
So let's run.
I'm not too worried about it, but we can check.
Slow part is the compiling.
Whoa. What?
Oh, because we said this is valid. Actually, this is not valid. equals 3 is not valid. That's the problem. So when we
Oh, yeah,
extracted
yeah.
it was
See, I
this.
outthought myself. Great. Okay. So let's call it is not valid
Yeah.
until we've done better and can truthfully call it is valid.
See, run the
Good thing we have
tests.
tests. Okay, and good thing we ran them. And now we take off the bang, and it
Oh,
should
right, because I should not
Yes,
have added that
yes.
back. Okay.
Professional programmers, folks.
Woohoo!
Nothing to see here.
We're a few professionals making.
Yes, so
This
that
is why
is
we
a
have tests, because
refactoring.
even we make silly mistakes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That is refactoring. And now the reason I wanted to do that is, and we could make 21 private.
Yeah.
Because we'll only call it here. Does Alt F2 if you do a Command Z to undo? I'm curious if IntelliJ helps you in a certain way. Put it back to protected. And I'm wondering if
if
option enter. Yeah.
Okay. Its
Learned that one
intention
from-
was correct. Yes.
Yes, Marcus S in the chat, or M Sopala taught me that one. Right. So now that we have a function that I wish is valid but isn't yet,
do we want to make this?
Let's make it not equals 3 and is valid, and invert the condition before we go any further. Yeah. Thank you.
And then,
that I feel pretty confident about, but we should check. Yeah. Cool.
All right,
and since unit is passed, we're in good shape. So now we can improve is valid if we wanted to add another example of something that isn't valid. So let's go back to the tests.
I'm going to move this so that we can see it all
format that.
there.
Yeah, that's good. So I guess what would be another example of a totally invalid looking number? It didn't have to start with a plus, but it could.
So I think I'd like to go by what at least looks like the standard for US numbers, which means it needs to start with a +1.
Okay, so then another test. Correct length without leading country code should throw.
I'm gonna say without leading USA country code.
Right.
And after a Twitter conversation with James Shore, I've actually started moving away from using should when I
saw that thread. Yeah.
Throws exception.
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
And so
and then for this one, same assertion. So we can copy 10 and 11 and just give a different string. Oh, that's who it is. It's Rizzy.
So we can do 5512112. The standard fake phone number.
And so 10 is a valid length, and it is a valid US number, except that it will not pass because it doesn't have a leading plus something.
Right. So this should fail.
Because it won't throw. And we wanted it to. Right. Okay.
All right.
So, yeah. I'm going to say because our business here is not validating phone numbers, that's enough examples. Let's use the regex. Right?
I'm curious if the regex will work. If it will fail in the right way.
Yeah. So instead of checking the length of the phone number against 3, we can check it against the regex. Is there a string operator?
Matches.
Perfect.
Does this want it compiled? Illegal escape character. Oh, because we need to. Because thank you, Java.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, but at least IntelliJ helps us with that. And this returns
Boolean.
Boolean if it matches. If and only if the string matches the given regular. Okay. Well, let's run the test and see what happens.
Big money, no whammies. Got a good feeling.
I think one of those is going to fail. Yeah.
Oh no.
Because I think technically it matched. This regex is a bit too loose for us. Because so the way I read it is that then there's 1 to 14 digits. I don't know why 1 is the lower end.
Yeah.
But so I'm up for tightening this a bit to basically make this just 10.
Okay.
Because now I'm just totally guessing about how the regex works.
Mm-hmm. So I have a rule about regexes that I don't write them without putting them in a Boolean method that has a pretty good name. This is an okay name, but it's not our domain, so we don't have to be specific.
Well, we could be more specific and say it's valid US number, since that's
okay.
What we're trying to do.
That's what we mean now. Yeah.
Valid, USA number, or is valid for USA. I don't know what.
It's good.
So I think because it's saying the +1 is optional, or the plus is optional.
The plus is optional. And so we passed the length check. I don't know what that /D is for. I feel like it's key right now.
So no. That's good.
No, yeah, that's a weird regex because no, I think I got it. It means any digit. I now understand. Okay, so from left to right, anchor to the beginning of the number, and at the right, anchor to the end. 1 / for Java, so that we can send a / to the regex, so that we mean a literal plus and not a regex plus. And then literal plus can appear 0 or 1 times. That's what the question mark is. And then a digit, but a digit not including 0, which is why it's a character class listed in that particular way. Exactly 1 time.
Right.
And which we can check that thing. We can do a test for that. And then a Java / so that we can send a /D, which means any digit. That's effectively 0 through 9 in brackets. It must be, because it's followed by an exactly 10 times.
Right.
So you know what I might do to clarify this? I might change that /D to a 0 through 9 in brackets, just because we didn't know what it was, and we'll need to.
Well, the other thing is I hate to spend time on
yeah, I know this isn't what we were trying to do.
Fixing out the regex, but really,
it's not that clever, and people don't know regex that well. Yeah. And then we don't need the backslashes in front of the 0 through 9. Yeah. And then that's easier to apprehend at a glance if you're not an expert, which we're not.
And I kind of want to make the plus not optional, because in my head I want, just the way I've seen Twilio do it, and maybe it's a bit more lenient, but I want to be a bit stronger, is it must, and since this is a US number, then I'm going to be actually really specific. I'm going to say,
can we come back for this? I want to try a test first.
Yep, let's go. Yeah, I shouldn't do changes, but
I have an idea that I want to check before we do that, and I think can you put the question mark back to?
I had to undo it all the way up. Yeah.
Just one more. Yeah. Okay. So at this point, well, let's see. Do we pass? I think so.
Yeah, I think we're passing, and we shouldn't be.
Right. Although it turned. Yeah.
So now I'm unclear why the 333 passed.
It passes because because we should throw, and we do throw. It's not valid. It's not.
Oh, right.
The number's long. Yeah, I had the the same second. What are we doing?
Yep. Okay.
The negative. So one more thing we could just try to make sure on 16, change the leading 6. We don't actually need to keep this test. Okay. This is just a quick experiment. Change the leading 6 to a 0, and that will then turn red. Just to make sure we have a handle on this regex.
I think that's still going to be green.
What?
Let's see. So, because you're expecting this 1 to 9 to basically not match.
Yeah.
And I'm agreeing.
And there's nothing like the regexes are greedy by default, but I don't know in which direction. That's a surprising result. I was sure that was going to change.
I mean,
do we want to care about that, or should we just get a plus and get out of here? Yeah, that's a good check. Uh-huh.
So it's basically, well, it's not accepting this. Well, right. I know these are going to throw, right? That's what we're saying.
Yeah, we made the same mistake a second
Yeah.
time. It's totally throwing in every single one of these cases, including this one.
And that's okay. What we wanted, I think maybe it's time.
But hang on, now this is what I don't understand.
Okay.
Why is it throwing already for this one? Because this looks like it would match.
Because it's not long enough.
Oh, right. It only has 9 of the other kind of digits.
So it matches this part, but it doesn't match basically the leading digit.
Yes. Okay.
Expecting 11 digits with an optional plus.
Cool. Okay. This is not what we set out to do, but it's what we're doing.
It's what we're doing.
Okay. Yeah, programming. So, all right. Then I guess our next, I only want to do one more example, which is, oh my God, Rizzy is a phone weenie. The minimum number of phone digits is 5 for the Solomon Islands.
Well, Mike, and that's why the E164 regex accepts 1 to 14 digits after the first number. But I declared as the business person that we're constraining that even further to be a valid US number.
Just put the Solomon Islands at the bottom of the backlog. We'll come back to it.
If later. If this ever becomes a business and I get a customer in the Solomon Islands, I will be more than happy to. For the money they pay me, whatever $5 it is, I'll do it.
Exactly, 34 cents every month.
Yeah.
So I think one more example would be enough, and that would be an example of with a leading +1, and then a similar looking phone number after that we have a phone number object.
So
don't throw, right?
USA phone number.
Yeah.
Leading +1 is valid. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And so in this case, we make a new phone number +1 650-555-1212, and
it should be just not
an exception. Yeah.
So new phone number. And that is not null.
Yeah.
All right.
And it might work.
It does.
It do. And then you wanted to make it require the leading +1? Because I think we can turn 16 red if we put a 1 in front. Or any number other than 0 in front, but not
right. Because let's do that.
Yeah, and then we want to make sure that still passes.
Right. So then.
Yeah. So then to fix that, we would take off the question mark in the regex.
Yeah, because in my mind, if I'm going to ask for that leading country code digit, then I want the plus in front of it. So.
Yep.
All right, so now if we run it, we're saying that should now pass.
Yes.
And boom, it does. Cool.
Great.
All right. Do we think we've covered the validation on this?
I think that is good enough for our purposes when we were headed elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's good.
All right.
You want to commit?
Let me do a commit. This is episode 5. Phone number is now validated upon creation. And
Jeepa was asking about dark theme. Meaning, should we switch to it? I don't know what he was asking. I only did him asking about at work. I don't see what he asked about it. Probably that he wants us to switch. Yeah. Okay, I'm caught up on the chat.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's like 2/3 of the way into the chat.
Oh, early on. Did me asking about the dark theme work?
That's all I see. I don't see the part where he asked previously about it.
Oh, that's weird. It got moderated maybe it has my moderation might be a bit overkill. So the automod was.
Anyone watching opposed to dark theme? Even though it's been half an hour now.
Well, I'm personally opposed to dark themes. So
okay, we're not doing dark theme.
Otherwise, we'd be in dark. I personally don't understand how people can use dark theme, but
I do it sometimes. But
when I teach, everybody's in dark theme because that seems to be the default that people pick when they start IntelliJ, and then I have to walk around class saying, "Can you make the font larger? Can you make the font larger?"
Yeah. Okay, so we were here because we were coming from a user account,
right?
Having 4 fields, one of which was this one, user profile. Yeah. Right. And that's enough validation for all of those for now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Do you want to do something with that comment?
Yeah, I just want to take it out.
Okay.
Because it's now implemented.
If you ever need to learn about phone number format again because the Solomon Islands become important, you know where to look for it.
If somebody in the UK or somebody with a non-US phone number wants to play around with that, they can submit a pull request.
Oh, is it important that the illegal argument exception says heck nobody?
Yeah, that's actually kind of important, I would think.
Okay. So what would you rather have it say? Something more related to what's wrong?
Yeah, basically just does not match.
Not a valid USA number.
Yeah.
That's from the Arlo Belshi school of type applesauce and figure it out later.
Yep. Do we want to be more specific in our assertions?
Looking for that message in particular?
Yeah, I don't know how you feel about that. I don't generally feel strongly about it.
I would test that if I was worried that I was going to screw up that message sometime when I'm editing that code and not notice it, and I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. If it had like replaceable parameters or interpolation or something. Then, okay.
Cool.
So we were heading towards being able to add a new user profile.
Mm-hmm.
And we took a nice tangent on some validation, so that's great. Oops. I forgot to turn.
I have a cool app for that. Let me tell you what it is. That just shuts off my notifications when I'm doing any kind of screen sharing. It is, which one? It's called Muzzle.
Oh yeah, I have to go get that. Yeah, because
it's
I have
good.
That in my checklist. Normally, I go through a whole bunch of things to prepare for a stream, and that was
Muzzle is something that makes me just not have to think about that anymore.
Yeah, I should do that.
That's good. Yep.
You can write that down. Let's see. Okay, so cool. What do we want to do? How would you approach this? I'm curious.
Can you go back to the browser?
Yep.
For a second. See what the user listing looks like now. Right. And what you were saying is, for a user with a parent role, you could create additional, something like that?
Yeah, so the idea is this URL is already restricted to those who have the parent role anyway.
Okay.
So there's no additional security that we need to do. If you're here, you're allowed to be here. And so we want to do something like create an add user button.
Yeah. Easiest maybe would be just however many users we actually have, print one more below it that is an empty form and to create user. Does that make sense for you?
Wondering if
alternatively we could go to a separate page that's for creating users and just have a link to it there.
Yeah, that's more what I was thinking.
Okay, let's do that.
Easier to do.
You want to switch and talk me through it?
Sure.
Okay.
So if you look at the, I have some integration tests. So the way I think about this is starting with sort of a top level integration test that basically says, well, we could do one where it said there's a link on that page, but I don't feel the need to test that. Really what we want to test is that we have a new screen, basically a new time leaf template that basically has a form with those four text boxes that people can type into. So if we look at,
oops, sorry.
So if we look at all the way up here are sort of my higher level integration tests. These are the slower integration tests that are actually bringing up part of the server to allow us to basically look at the full cycle MVC. So for example, this test currently stuffs a TED into the repository and then basically looks at /users. Is there a user's view, and pulls out the profiles, and does one of the profile have what we expect it to have? And so actually it'll probably be a bit more like the deposit view test, where we ask for the form page, we get it, and then we do a post to it with these parameters, and then assume some outcome.
Okay.
So
and so like we're going to posit the existence of a new URL /add user or something.
Right. Let's see. I had what do I have? So let's go to the user controller. I think it's in the user or profile controller. I forget. Yeah, that one. So there's a users mapping down on line 28. And then there's a users welcome. So we might want to have underneath users have a new page that's, so the users link would be users add. And then a time leaf template would be something like users -add.
Okay. So let me just put a comment with the idea, because we're going to test it first, but here's the idea. We're saying we would have a users /add.
Right.
And then what was the other part?
And then the name of the template that it's going to return is going to be something like users-add.
Okay, that's enough for. I'm a little bit. I don't know. I'm not diagnosed, but I have a short attention span. So
no, that's fine.
That when I do a git diff later, I remember where I was going to put this and what I.
Absolutely. No, I do the same thing.
8 minutes from now. Okay, so then do we have a test around this guy? Or is this how you?
Let's see. Well, what I want to do is I want to start at the sort of the very outer layer, sort of the routing. So basically, more like the deposit, the test we were just at. Yeah, so something similar to this, where we do a post against it, passing in the parameters that will eventually have a form send in, and then that will do the right thing.
Sorry, just a second. I will have to hard stop in 20 minutes because we have to go buy a car. So
okay, no worries.
That's the end of that. Yeah. Okay. So should I copy some stuff from here, or?
Yeah. So let's. Why don't you copy the whole test, because there's a bunch of setup stuff with a bunch of annotation. So actually copy the whole class, because there's some annotation stuff that gets set up to bypass. If you hit F5, actually, that goes through Zoom. That will copy the class.
Really? What is your plugin that shows me the keystroke that I just typed all the time?
Presentation Assistant.
That's
I think
super
it's a
nice.
JetBrains plugin. Yeah, I use it all the
Okay.
time. So now you can
And-
give it a name. This will be sure.
Okay.
And then you can sort of hollow out the.
Yeah. So you tell me, what should I?
Let's. So we could either start with the easy part or the harder part. Let's start with the harder part. So let's get rid of the test on line 30. We'll get rid of that whole test.
Is there a shorter trick? Probably the mouse. Okay.
I think Command delete will do that, but that's all right.
Yeah.
And then let's, so that we can just get down to one test, I think. Second one's looking for errors. So let's get rid of the one at 42 as well. Let's get rid of that one. All right. And so what we want to do is change 30, because what we want to do is this will be, we submit a submit the user creation form I think for now it just basically takes us back to the users page. So redirects to user page or users page.
Okay. And we're saying that would be when we post here.
Right. Yep.
And what do we post?
So we're gonna have 4 parameters. First one is gonna be name. You can put whatever you want there. All right. And then email, I think, is next. All right. And then phone number. So I tend to camel case even parameter names, even though that might not be. No, those should all start with lowercase.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
The Java version of camel case, which is in lowercase.
Right. I was thinking wiki version like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that should be a valid phone number.
As we have learned recently, what that means. So +1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0.
Yeah. And then one more param, which will be the role. So you're outside the paren, so you need to be inside of it.
I tried to be inside. What happened?
Because there's a double one right there. So you need to
I
be
went
inside that
dot
one.
here and then hit enter. I guess I didn't. Okay. Well, I meant to.
I believe you.
Will something format when I save?
Yeah.
Okay, I won't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay, and this one is?
This one is role. And I guess we can make this parent.
Lowercase?
Yeah, that's not going to matter. Or I'd like it not to matter.
Okay. It seemed not to format it, so I will worry about it. Okay.
And then we'll expect to be redirected to /users.
Just literal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can make that a constant later.
Lost a paren.
I don't know if it comes through Zoom, but Command-Shift-Enter is your friend for automatically completing and closing and adding semicolons as needed.
I'm going to try that. Command-Shift-Enter. Hey.
And then, yep.
Sweet.
It's one of my favorite keystrokes.
Today I learned. Nice.
And
maybe this is...
I think we can delete that for now.
Yeah. We kind of want to see that we have one more user than we had before. Or
So
at
we
least
can
like
do-
this information is in the page somewhere.
Yeah, so we could do that. In
You feel
the
like it?
yeah, because we're going to want to do
Okay.
that anyway.
Okay.
So let's. So I'm curious what you think. So there's two ways we could test this, right? We could sort of test that the UI shows that number of users, or we could actually just check the repository to see if it has that number of users.
Because you have a hexagonal architecture.
Yeah. So, because I already have tests for this, that the user, and that's in the user management integration test that basically says, given this number of users, I expect this number of users to be displayed. And so, we can go that way. Then it's a bit easier to do the check.
Okay.
So what we can do,
probably again. Oh no, you're saying not that.
Yeah, so we don't need to do. So we're sort of using this, and I wish I had a good name for this. It's basically I'm doing the sort of the insert through the adapter, but the check I'm doing against the domain. So we don't even need those two lines of code at all.
I practiced Command-Shift-Enter while you were talking. Cool.
So what we do want to do is we want to get access to the repository, so we can add an auto-wired variable up on line 28. And it'll be the user something repository. I really need to user profile repository. Yeah.
Oops.
And you need to annotate that one with @AutoWired as well.
Oh, it needs its own. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
It only applies to the single variable.
Yeah.
And just thinking, hold on, I just want to look at something here. Yeah, this is kind of a little bit painful. So, because what because the tests are bringing up a server, there's a configuration that loads up a couple of default users. So that way I can log into my own app when I'm running locally. But I don't expose the delete all in the domain because I don't use it in the domain, but it is available on the concrete adapter. And so,
well, we could just check for a state change. Like
we could do that.
We have the repository before that has 2 entries, and then we have the repository after that has 3, and that's probably
we could do that.
Validation enough.
We could even do. We don't care how many there are, right? What we care is, can we find this one?
Yeah, that's true too.
So we could just do that.
Nobody typed hot diggity into your fake repository before.
Actually, I don't have a lookup by name. I don't have a lookup by email and phone number. So we could do a lookup by that email. So yes, let's do that.
Actually, that reminds me. Is there a uniqueness check at creation time?
There is not.
Database,
and I'm unclear from a business owner standpoint. Do I want to enforce that? So probably for email I do. But I'm not sure about phone number. But
should we just add a Trello item?
I'm gonna do that. Yes.
To wonder about that.
Yeah. So
and then if I have 10 minutes left, I'll leave it to you to decide when we should wrap up in retro or whatever it is that you like to do at the end.
Well, what we can do is I'm going to
go
continue
through.
after, but
Okay.
I'll take that opportunity to take a break that I usually take
Okay.
a break.
Okay.
We can basically finish writing the test and sort of end there.
Cool.
Uniqueness could transfer user profile. Definitely for email. Probably for phone number as well. Enforce. Okay. So yeah, so what we can do is we can say, we can assert that the user profile repository, if we do a find by phone number, we should get, basically it should be not null.
Oops, I lost my focus. So I do this guy.
Yep.
Find by phone number.
Yep.
This one.
Hello, React.js Jess. How you doing? That has to be a domain number. So you can just write it in the thing we just created.
Yeah.
Or the thing we now validated, which I wonder if I'll have failing tests in any of my phone numbers.
This was cool. I just started clicking over here and I was like, wait. Ted taught me something. Yes.
Woohoo!
And now I need the F2 for the next error and Alt Enter for the do what I want.
And
that one.
Yep.
Okay. If Marcus is
Mike,
watching, he'll be proud of me.
Have fun at lunch. I'll be on later if you want to tune in again.
Mike. Yeah. Cool.
And so we can...
and that returns...
Yeah. So there's a trick here. I don't know if you know it.
Probably not.
If you have two options, you can hit Command Option V.
Just extract to local...
And extract to local variable. And there's another way you can do it, which is tack on, go to the end of the line, and right before the semicolon type .var.
What?
And then hit enter.
What?
Which basically does an extract variable locally.
That's amazing. I didn't know that one. That's super cool.
I learned that one a few months ago, and I've been using it all the time.
Okay.
And now you can just select a name there.
Number, I guess. Oh, no, it's profile, not number.
Right.
Let me try that again. Oh, but you have to type it.
You have to type it so it can complete it.
My parents always said it's easier to get it right the first time. Profile.
Yeah. And since it returns an optional, we can just say whether it's present or not. Assert that it's present. How
does that work in Java? How do I say this in Java?
Well, this is going to be an assert J thing. So you can say assert J, assert that, and then profile, and then just say import it because it's got to be imported. Yeah, the second one, yep. Import.
Oh, now it got my arrow key.
And basically is present.
Sweet.
And that's it. Command Shift Enter. I hardly type semicolons anymore because I just use the autocomplete.
It does that too
for me. Yeah.
Okay. I gotta.
This will most certainly fail, and then that'll be a good stopping point because I like failing tests as a stopping point.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite techniques. Also for my personal productivity, if somebody is trying to pull me away from my desk, which is difficult now that I'm on a remote gig, but when it's in person and somebody's like, "Come with me," I'm like, "Give me 4 seconds."
Right.
And I just write a test that says fail.
Yep.
String. The thing you were thinking about is X. And then I come back and I mindlessly run the tests, and then I remember where I was.
Yep. I love that technique.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this test will take longer than our wonderful unit test, but that's okay.
And did it fail for the right reason?
And it did, because
it was null.
Oh, that one failed. That's fine. So this is an interesting thing that when I'm writing these integration tests, I find that there are multiple pieces. Like this is this outer cycle where I have to dive in sort of this tighter loop, my tighter TDD loop before I pop out again. And now, that first part of the test passes and then the second part doesn't. I have to go back into my tighter loop.
The error message moves in some way.
Yeah. Cool. Any this was fun for me. So
yeah. No, for sure, for me too.
So I appreciate your time on this, because it's always much more fun to do it with an actual pair than sort of me by myself.
Yeah, TDD is a good stand-in for a pair if you really need one, but a pair is the best pair.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the strong style pairing is something that's relatively new for you? Or just haven't done a lot of it?
Just haven't done a lot of it recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I'm doing it face to face with somebody, it's a lot easier for me than sort of adding in the remote thing throws me.
Remote is its whole ball of wax for sure. Yeah, and I've been getting a lot of practice with strong style remote.
Right.
Last few months on the gig that Nayan and G-Pa and Marcus and I are on. I mentioned we're doing Kotlin, and so I forgot about the semicolons, which is kind of cool to see that took. Command Shift Enter is cool. There was the .var trick is cool. I think you showed me at least one other one that I hope I remember. I'm happy that I haven't entirely forgotten Java, because I haven't learned Kotlin that well, so I should at least hang on to something.
Right.
What else? I think I liked how we just sort of loosely switched as the context made sense. That worked well for me. The network connection was not a problem in any way.
It looks like everything worked out totally fine there, surprisingly. I'm always surprised when stuff just works.
Yeah, and the rig that you set up for Zoom to patch me through seems like it works. Everybody was hearing what we were saying.
Yeah, and one of the things I'll do is I'm gonna go document that, because
that would be awesome, because I'm trying to do some of this stuff too. Yeah,
because I figured it out, but it was non-obvious. Yeah,
that'd be cool. I like the domain as something that's very easy to show up and pair with.
Yeah, you picked it up pretty quickly, so that was.
Yeah, and so I wonder. I have a question that maybe you can try with your next pair. It's not exactly a controlled experiment. But so over the summer, I went on a coding tour where I visited a lot of different companies, and I was mob programming with a lot of them a lot of the time. And there was one in particular that, like, they invited me because they wanted mob programming to be a thing that happened.
Right.
And so they set it up so that every team was mobbing with me. All I had to do was hang out in the big conference room, and if a different team showed up, that must be because it's time to switch who's working with me. But I just hang out here, and the programming happens here, and whoever comes, it's their turn. There's a schedule. Super cool. And so because I was getting into a routine about that, I thought I would experiment a little bit. Pretty often, a team would want to explain what's going on that they think is important for me to know before we start. And my hypothesis was that is less important than we think. They already have all the context they need, probably, by the time they come and are going to work on this problem with some outsider. And I can probably get enough to be helpful in the span of an hour and a half or two by asking, 2 or 3 key questions at the right times.
Right.
And so I asked a couple of them, like, do me a favor, try just starting, if you're willing to, and let's see how that goes.
So how important do you think, because I did give you sort of an intro of what the app does. I feel like that's important. Do you think do you think you could have done away with less of that?
I don't know. My suspicion is, at least for me, I would have asked questions as we went along. Like, if you just gave me 5 minutes on, this is a money manager for my kid, and I text things to it, here are some things I'm thinking about doing next. And I'd be like, hold up, can we click around for a second? Or maybe I wouldn't have been. But maybe try capping it at like 5 minutes of what it does, and maybe that's enough to go.
Could be. Yeah.
I know for me, I ask questions as I go, no matter what.
Sure, of course, yeah.
And
that's what I would have hoped, and you did.
And the flip side of it is I wasn't bored listening to you. I'm just looking now in retrospect, like, we had 90 minutes. We could have programmed more if we had exposed or done less exposition at the beginning.
Yeah, and I also wonder about, like, the phone number validation, whether that was a useful thing. I feel like it's useful to do, but maybe that was too in the weeds. For the limited time we had, but.
Yes, I'm of two minds about it too. I was sort of wondering as we're doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think what we wound up with, though, was a healthy tension about how much of this is important for us to validate.
Right.
Which is not a lot. Like, we just want to make sure we have roughly the right thing for what we care about, and then walk away.
Yeah.
And so, in a sense, that was like a real delivery pressure in a way, where like this isn't what we wanted the show to be about.
Right.
What's the least of this we could do?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, this was fun for me. This was great. It felt very natural to be pairing with you. So
same.
That's a good thing.
I think that probably goes in general for anyone who does a lot of pairing and is maybe coaching or training oriented, that you can kind of expect a certain vocabulary of how this stuff works with each other. And so I had no qualms. I was sure it would be like this, and I'm happy that it was.
Cool. Well, again, thanks for stopping by, as it were. And anytime you want to drop by, I'm here almost, unless I'm away training or coaching, I'm here every day from 11:30 my time until I run out of gas.
Nice. Cool. Well, I may do that. Thank you very much for having me. I had a great time.
Great. All right. Well, I'll see you on the Twitter stream then.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ted.
Okay. All right. Bye.